this floor and to speak for the people of San Francisco. This I will continue to do as a member of the House, speaking for the people of San Francisco, serving the great state of California, and defending our Constitution. And with great confidence in our caucus, I will not seek re-election to Democratic leadership in the next Congress.
We have a powerhouse roundtable of guests joining us today to further discuss this historic announcement. We have CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane on Capitol Hill. We have CBS News political contributor and former communications director and senior advisor to Pelosi, Ashley Etienne, who joins me at the table here, and CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joining us from the North Lawn. Welcome to all of you. A lot to unpack here. I want to start, Scott, with you because you're on the Hill. Pelosi announces that she's stepping down from leadership, but she's not without a succession plan. Take us kind of on the Hill today. What was it like, and who is this new slate of leadership?
The immediate reaction was, of course, tributes to the outgoing Speaker, the first and only woman to ever serve as Speaker. It's a historical moment, but the practical implications became quite a conversation as the day went on. There are immediate issues for the House Democrats. They've lost their best fundraiser. They've lost perhaps the best vote counter they've ever had on the House floor. And there's no firm succession plan yet. They've lost their entire slate of leadership after this Congress, because it wasn't just Speaker Pelosi. It was House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer of Maryland, House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, who say they're also stepping back from leadership. All three of them said they're opening the door to a new generation of leaders, which raises the prospects of House Caucus Chair Hakeem Jeffries of New York. He didn't make his plans announceable today. He didn't make them public. A lot of people are keeping their powder dry in honor of the outgoing Speaker. But this is a seasonal change, a seismic change for the House Democratic Caucus, and it's happening as they're about to enter the minority with a very narrow margin for Republicans in the majority, where every vote is going to count, where Speaker Pelosi's vote counting skills may be sorely missed.
Yeah, Scott, that's such a great point. And Ashley, I want to pick up on that because not only is, the next leader going to have these challenges of counting the votes, but also what Scott mentioned about Pelosi's role as building the party infrastructure, being the prolific fundraiser that she is. What are some of these challenges for Democrats heading into a minority now without her at the helm?
Well, I mean, the benefit of going into the minority is that you actually get an opportunity to retool, refocus, re-engineer the party under new leadership. So I think that there's nothing but opportunity there for Mr. Jeffries or whoever takes over as the Speaker. But, also the benefits of being in the minority is you coalesce around one message. It becomes the objective becomes very clear. People fall in line. So I think this is going to be a really great opportunity to really do a reset within the caucus, redefine roles, reimagine the messaging and the vision for the House Democrats.
And Pelosi is going to stick around. She's not leaving Congress, so she's going to now be a backbencher. What will that kind of be like? I imagine it would be difficult for her not to assume some of the roles that she's assumed.
I mean, I've only known her to be a boss, so I can't imagine her not.
You know her so well.
Right, I can't imagine her not being the boss. You have to imagine, though, it's also going to be a little challenging for the new leadership that comes in because she'll be forever sort of looming, right? And I think there'll also be questions. I mean, you can just imagine a situation where she's run that caucus for so long and has been at the head of the table that she comes into a room and Mr. Jeffries might, or whoever it is, might say, we're going to go left, and then everyone turns to her and actually verifies whether or not we're going left. I think it's just going to be interesting to see how the entire caucus adjusts to it, but with her still being there.
I mean, one person that is very used to her being at the helm is Joe Biden, Ed, the president. He is now going to face a divided Congress for the first time in his presidency. Tell us a little bit about how you expect the Biden administration to navigate this without Nancy Pelosi as the leader of the Democratic caucus.
Well, first of all, a credit to Ashley for finding a positive way to spin the Democratic minority by suggesting it's a rebuilding period. You sound like the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars or something by suggesting that, going and having a bad year is good for the draft or something. My goodness, but good for you, Ashley. Thanks for trying. As for what they'll do here at the White House, look, they know Hakeem Jeffries, Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar. but they don't know him the way the president knows Speaker Pelosi. The statement he put out today, pointing out that they have known each other for decades. He knew her as a senator, a vice president, and now president, and that he thinks of her as one of the most dignified people who's ever worked here in Washington. They've been in the foxhole together now, especially this century, on a host of big issues, from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan to passage of the Affordable Care Act, to repealing the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy in the military, to all of the legislation passed by Congress in the last 2 years, which the historic and real breadth of it, I don't think is going to be appreciated for several more years. Certainly that's what the White House would tell you. So it will be, a bit of an adjustment for the president, who's going to have to, as he has, continue to defer to congressional leadership at times when, it's time for a rough and tumble negotiation now with Republicans. But what Pelosi's doing here is essentially making good on a promise she made to her younger colleagues 4 years ago, that she would step out of the way because she understands the party's in need of a next generation. And that's going to be quite a contrast to see these three, if it is indeed Hakeem Jeffries, and Ms. Clark and Mr. Aguilar leading the caucus as anticipated, alongside a president who's turning 80 on Sunday. But that comes at a time when the Democratic Party is saying they're seeking new blood. They want that next generation to step up. And there are Democrats who say the president should be stepping aside to allow somebody else to lead the party. So perhaps by her getting out of the way, Hoyer and Clyburn getting out of the way, it'll start to appease the concerns of Democrats that the next generation isn't being heard or allowed to do the job. So we'll see. It's going to require careful negotiation, careful coordination. But these three have been working methodically for the last 2 years, especially to build their team and to have enough votes in place to demonstrate to Pelosi, Hoyer, and Clyburn that they could go and that these three would have the support needed to lead the caucus.
And Scott, speaking of those votes, I'm curious what this will mean for Republicans. You had Kevin McCarthy, who, is expected or, might, well, barring any news here, will likely become the speaker. He's still going to need some help from this leadership slate as they come up. Kind of explain to us, he's someone that was cheering that Nancy Pelosi has been fired now that Republicans have won the House, but he's still going to need Democratic support in a slim majority, right?
And it was noticeable that Kevin McCarthy was not in the House chamber when Nancy Pelosi gave those remarks today. And there is a burden on Kevin McCarthy, assuming he gets the votes to become the next House Speaker, to build a relationship with the new Democratic leadership, because you can see coming down the path, there are going to be big votes on big things in which he might need some Democratic votes. Think about the debt ceiling, which that crisis could be coming next year. Think about keeping the government functioning, government spending, preventing shutdowns. He might need a coalition of Republicans and Democrats because his majority is slim, and there are any number of factions inside who may not give their votes to Kevin McCarthy. So there's a burden coming his way, the need to develop a new relationship with whoever takes over as Democratic leader. I'll tell you something else, Caitlin, and I want to bring this question to Ashley, if you can indulge me. There's a pretty healthy skepticism on the Hill late today that Nancy Pelosi would serve a full term as a backbench member of the House, going to those sometimes painful 10 a.m. committee hearings or subcommittee hearings and sitting at the end of the dais. Ashley, do you think she would serve a full term as a backbencher?
Scott, that's such a good question. We were just talking about that earlier. I can't imagine it. It's just really so hard to imagine. But here's the benefit is that when you look at the Democratic leadership, the ones that'll replace, the members that'll replace the current leadership, none of them, to my knowledge, have been deeply involved in high-stakes negotiations. Yeah. So nor has McCarthy, to my knowledge. And so the Democrats will have an advantage because they'll have the speaker still, or I should say, Representative Pelosi, still around to help navigate them through really, really high stakes negotiations. And the one thing we do know about her is there's no one who can outperform her when it comes to high stakes negotiations. So I think that's going to work to her advantage. But Scott, you raise a good point. I can't imagine her in hearings. I can't imagine her being a full backbencher, but I do see her being sort of an advisor emeritus to the actual caucus and to the leadership.
Caitlin, I'm glad Scott brought this up because this is actually something I was going to mention as well. She may not have a choice. Hoyer, Clyburn don't necessarily have a choice in stepping down. If the margins are going to be 4 or 5 seats and Republicans go through with their vow to end proxy voting or the ability to phone it in, literally, and that they have to be there, attendance issues, the health of 435 lawmakers now become critical, and you cannot spare a vote in that situation. So, you know, if she were to step down, the governor would have to call an election within 14 days, and then the election would have to be held within 4 months. Can Democrats afford to lose a seat that long if there are close and careful negotiations over budget or immigration or issues like gun policy and, you know, funding matters for Ukraine? That's part of why none of them can go anywhere right now, because the margins are going to be so close, and it's a dynamic we've not seen in the modern era that's really going to affect what the House, if anything, can get done next year.
Yeah, certainly a new era indeed. Well, Scott McFarlane, Ashley Etienne, and Odo Keefe, thank you all so much. We appreciate your time and reporting. We'll talk to you soon. And coming up, Pelosi's departure leaves a major seat open for Democratic leadership as they prepare to be in the minority. We're diving into what the dynamics will be like on Capitol Hill next year, coming up after a break. You're streaming Red and Blue, reporting across the political divide.
An original CBS Reports documentary.
Yoga and wellness has become a place of anti-science.
Online clickbait.
The algorithms feed you content based upon your own fantasy.
Potentially at my peril.
There's no question about it.
Spreading digital disinformation.
Their entire yoga studio and spiritual community got so embedded in all of the QAnon stuff that it became this sick place.
Why pro-health people are fertile ground for anti-science messages.
We can just go into the whole mask thing. A lot of us just believe that's symbolism for silencing people.
People are locked in this mindset. They've been taught to accept what the medical doctors say.
No longer are you going to be willing to take any medical advice.
It's a big problem that we urgently need to address.
An original CBS Reports documentary streaming now. An original CBS Reports documentary.
We need to put an end to this territorial status.
Will statehood create a better Puerto Rico?
So that we have the same quality of life that you see in the States.
What do you worry about?
Me living here in the future?
They're giving incentives to non-Puerto Ricans to come to Puerto Rico
and extract our natural resources and take over our land.
Vacation in Puerto Rico, and in exchange for that, you don't pay taxes.
Why would I allow somebody who abused me for 123 years to then consume me?
An original CBS Reports documentary streaming now.
When weather turns extreme,
massive and rapidly intensifying hurricane,
every second counts.
Hurricane Fiona slams Puerto Rico with flooding and power outages.
CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
Well over 9 feet. This is not survivable.
You'll have time to get prepared.
You want to have the advantage on severe weather days.
It just may save your life.
Feel the forecast. Weather when it matters most on CBS Mornings.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We are so excited, we just can't hide it.
CBS Mornings are, well, everything your morning should be.
Let's do it!
Let's go!
CBS Mornings, starting at 7.
Stories that inform, inspire, and brighten your day.
I've been waiting patiently for something like this.
Make every day a little more like Sunday morning.
Here comes the sun.
Stream on the free CBS News app Tuesday mornings.
Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Caitlin Huey-Burns. Changes are coming to Congress. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is expected to become the new House Speaker when Republicans officially take the majority next year. And with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announcing today that she will step down from her position as head of her caucus, House Democrats will have to navigate a Republican-controlled House with new leadership. We have two outgoing Democratic members, Michigan Congressman Andy Levin and Illinois Congresswoman Sherry Bustos join me now. Hi, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. So, Congresswoman Bustos, I want to start with you because this is a new era coming to Capitol Hill. I know that you and your colleague next to you are going to be departing the Hill, but what are the challenges now for Democrats being in the minority without Pelosi guiding them through it?
Well, we've been lucky as a Democratic caucus to have someone of the caliber of Nancy Pelosi leading us for so many years. You know, love her or not, she's effective. And by the way, I do love her. I'm not in the or not category, but she's extremely effective. She knows her caucus very well. We had a very fragile majority over the last couple cycles. While we were in the majority, it was a slim majority, and she held us together. And look at the amazing accomplishments that we've been able to take home. We have community project funding where we've brought home tens of millions of dollars on very local projects. We've got the infrastructure package passed. We got the CHIPS Act passed where we are bringing manufacturing jobs home. We made it through this pandemic in a way that jobs are actually growing as we come out of this. So really amazing leadership. The next generation of leader, which she and Steny Hoyer and Jim Clyburn all talked about today, is going to be a dynamic young new groups of leaders that will have the three top positions in the Democratic caucus. On the other hand, you've got kind of the old staid Kevin McCarthy, and the leadership on the other side will not reflect America like we reflect America on the Democratic side. I just think that while we will be in the minority, but just by a few votes, I think you're going to see some amazing leadership on the Democratic side that will follow some amazing leadership that we've had over the last many years.
And Congressman, to you, you've represented the more progressive wing of the party. You also are no stranger to Capitol Hill, given that your father served as well. Are you confident that this new leadership team can kind of bring together the multiple factions of the party, especially progressives who want to have a voice?
I am, Caitlin, I really am. And just take a moment to appreciate Speaker Pelosi's sense of timing. It's hard for us to see her go, but now we're going into the minority, and she says, okay, this is the moment for those of us who've been around for a while to step aside and let this new leadership get its sea legs. We have really experienced, really diverse, really dynamic leaders who are taking up the mantle, and I have really great confidence in them that they reflect the diversity of our caucus, yes, in terms of ideology, but also in every other way. And so I think they're going to do a really terrific job under difficult circumstances, right? It's going to be a crazy show watching presumably Kevin McCarthy try to lead this fractious Republican caucus with the thinnest majority, Sherry, I think maybe ever, or at least in modern times, of either party in the House of Representatives. They may have 219, 220, 221, just a few vote majority, and it's going to be very difficult for them.
Congressman, to that point, you have Republicans already coming out and kind of detailing the investigations that they want to see. You have the new incoming oversight committee chairman saying, here are the things that we want to investigate. Is the Democratic caucus prepared to go toe-to-toe with Democrats, with Republicans on this idea that you're going to have these investigations into the Biden administration?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at our membership and our leadership that we'll have on oversight, they'll be well prepared. But also the Republicans need to be careful. If they want to go and investigate things that aren't substantive, that aren't legitimate, the American people are going to tire of that very quickly, and we will have a big victory in 2024 if they overstep. And it sounds just right on the very first day, it sounds like they're planning to overstep. So that's probably not a good plan on their part.
And Congresswoman Bustos, I know you used to chair the DCCC a couple of cycles ago. Republicans didn't perform as well as they wanted to, but they still will control the House. And that means chairmanships, and that means a power of sorts in the House, especially. What lessons should Democrats take away from these elections? Even if they overperform some expectations, what lessons are to be learned for Democrats?
Well, I come from a district that is Donald Trump won in 2016 and in 2020 as a Democrat. It's very rural, 7,000 square miles, 10,000 family farms. And so I think part of it is as Democrats, as we move forward, we have to make sure that we not only perform well in urban areas, but that we understand how you can pick up votes and not totally bomb in more of the rural areas. You know, you look back at the President Obama model when he first ran in 2008. I actually was working in Iowa at the time, and I was part of I worked in healthcare before I came to Congress, and I was part of a rural healthcare task force when President Obama was first running. What he did is he went to all of those rural areas in the state of Iowa. He didn't ignore rural counties. His philosophy is, well, maybe I'm not going to win these rural counties, but I also want to make sure that I'm not going to get just 10% or 20%. He racked up the score, and in many of those rural counties, he got 40% of the vote. I think we've got to look back to that model. I don't want to ignore any part of a congressional district like mine. You know, we've got a town called Hamlet, Illinois, population 48. And I remember driving through this town, and I said to my district director, I said, I want to stop there and I want to knock on every door and find out what people in Hamlet, Illinois think. I think that's the mentality that we have to take as Democrats, that we're not going to ignore rural America. We're not going to ignore these small towns. In fact, we're going to listen to folks in those towns, and our votes are going to reflect what their needs are. They have the same hopes and dreams as people in urban America, and we have to make sure that we're listening to those.
And certainly a lesson for the party heading into 2024 as well. Congressman, you know, I'm curious because President Biden, you know, is going to have to work with Republicans now that he's facing a divided Congress. But as far as the progressive wing of the party goes, what do they say, you know, is there any concern about compromises that the Biden administration may have to make with Republicans?
You know, Caitlin, I think that we have passed such important legislation in this 117th Congress. Progressives are so proud of what we've done together, the whole caucus, and we are looking to the Biden administration to implement it in the strongest terms. The Inflation Reduction Act, the biggest investment in the history of our country in taking on climate change, hopefully reducing our carbon footprint by 40% in this decade. So we have a lot to do with the Biden administration to implement all the things we've already done together. And then Joe Biden has been a master of working across the aisle. Progressives and moderates, we all want to work with Republicans wherever we can. So if there are areas of compromise, that's great. But the thing that Joe Biden has been great about, and he needs to continue doing, and I wish this was above partisan politics, is focus on putting money in working people's pockets, right? Raise minimum wages, bring manufacturing back to this country, support good union jobs. And I think if we do that, we'll be politically successful. And if the Republicans want to join in doing that, that's fantastic.
All right. Good advice for the next Congress and the administration. Representatives Andy Levin and Sherry Bustos, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And coming up, the midterms are finally winding down, but now the speculation is turning to who is eyeing 2024. You're streaming Red and Blue.
Thinking about it.
Everybody wakes up in the morning and they are pelted with alerts that frighten them, news that agitates them. With this show, we have the time to explain what's going on. These migrants, they've been released. Explain the status that allows them to be released, to slow things down a little bit. What are the big sets of questions for China and its ambitions? Hackers are stepping up their attacks to extort victims. Let's start with easy. Who's attacking? Here's a deeper understanding of what's happening.
I'm thinking about it.
Prime Time with John Dickerson. Stream on the free CBS News app. original documentary from CBS reports tensions rising between a powerful country and a vital island.
The supply of this technology came grinding to a halt. The world would grind to a halt.
Absolutely. As Taiwan faces threats and aggression,
Taiwan is on the front line, and we understand our responsibility as a democracy. We cannot fall.
CBS News examines whether they can defend themselves.
Putin, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, there are manifestations of the battle between autocracy and democracy. And that is a fight that we're all engaged in.
Defending Taiwan, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When weather turns extreme,
Massive and rapidly intensifying hurricane.
every second counts.
Hurricane Fiona slams Puerto Rico with flooding and power outages.
CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
Well over 9 feet. This is not survivable.
You'll have time to get prepared.
You want to have the advantage on severe weather days.
It just may save your life.
Feel the forecast. Weather when it matters most on CBS Mornings.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
When it comes to the money you spend every day, we have you covered every morning. Making money makes sense. Weekdays on CBS Mornings.
After decades in the public eye and public service, this mother-daughter duo is now talking about gutsy women. What's the gutsiest thing you've ever done? We go person to person with Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton and Chelsea Clinton.
Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Stories that inform, inspire, and brighten your day.
I've been waiting patiently for something like this.
Make every day a little more like Sunday morning.
Here comes the sun.
Stream on the free CBS News app Tuesday mornings.
Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Caitlin Huey-Burns. There are several potential 2024 contenders speaking this weekend at the Republican Jewish Coalition annual leadership meeting in Las Vegas. It starts tomorrow. Former Vice President Mike Pence, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and Maryland Governor Larry Hogan will all give speeches at the event, and others, including Senator Ted Cruz and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, will also be attending that three-day gathering. And tonight, former Vice President Pence will speak at the Reagan Library in California. Meanwhile, Carrie Lake is visiting Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach just after she lost her race for Arizona governor. Lake is attending a two-day event there hosted by America First Policy Institute, and that's a think tank launched by Trump allies. Lake has not yet conceded in the governor's race. And that does it for today. You can stream Red and Blue Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And a reminder, if you want to watch previous episodes of the program, you can see them anytime on the CBS News website. Just head to cbsnews.com/redandblue.
An original CBS Reports documentary.
When folks on the right talk about socialism, it's a boogeyman.
Socialists are always going to promise you free tuition, free healthcare, free everything, but they will never promise you freedom.
I think of socialism as government control.
Wealth is too concentrated at the top right now.
Providing for people the things that they need is actually the world that we were supposed to live in.
Socialism didn't work in Cuba, North Korea, the Soviet Union.
Capitalism is the bedrock of the American dream.
My daughter's one of 40,000 people a year dying from lack of health care in this country. What kind of country am I living in that we're okay with this?
An original CBS Reports documentary, streaming now. An original CBS Reports documentary.
The Electoral College sets up a system where every vote is not equal.
The Electoral College serves a purpose and is valuable.
Electoral votes or the popular vote?
It would be more purely democratic if we got rid of the Electoral College. But sometimes simple democracy is not the best idea.
When people on both sides feel that the system is rigged, it divides us.
538 people elect the president. That violates our principles of democratic government.
The Electoral College made George Bush an illegitimate president from the beginning. It's a terrible disease on American democracy.
An original CBS Reports documentary streaming now.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now. We got something crazy.
And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time. Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
Innovative and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
If it's important to our nation.
Madam Speaker, I want to talk to you, of course, about abortion.
It's on Face the Nation.
How much money is it that you think you need to go ask Congress for?
The why behind the biggest stories.
Can there be stability if Vladimir Putin remains in power?
Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan on CBS.
What are the words you would use to describe the Queen?
Kind, caring, and a nice lady.
I'm here for you. America needs drivers.
And we're here to help.
What are you learning from Girls on the Run?
Never give up and to always keep trying.
You can see fire and rescue is up. They're doing wellness checks when people are trapped inside their homes.
We're gonna be okay. We're gonna make it.
We are still going strong on this busy Thursday. Thanks so much for staying here with us on CBS News. I'm Errol Barnett.
And I'm Lana Zach. Here's a look at the top stories we are following right now. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is stepping down from Democratic House leadership when her term as Speaker comes to an end. However, she says she will continue serving constituents as they're elected a leader in San Francisco. Today's announcement comes as CBS News projects Republicans have won the majority in the House.
And Ukraine and NATO are clashing right now over where the missile in Tuesday's deadly strike in Poland actually originated. The U.S. and NATO say the missile was actually fired by Ukraine, which was defending itself against a Russian barrage. But Ukraine's government says the missile was actually fired by Russia.
Plus, outrage is growing over the investigation surrounding the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students on Sunday. Officials say all 4 were killed with some kind of blade, but no murder weapon has been found.
So, Karen Bass will be the first woman to serve as the mayor of Los Angeles.
CBS News projected Wednesday that the Democratic Congresswoman defeated billionaire Rick Caruso in a closely watched race. Republican-turned-Democrat Caruso conceded defeat to Bass last night. Bass had served 6 terms in Congress and was on President Biden's shortlist for a running mate, potentially, in 2020.
Joining us now to discuss this is Laura Cordy. She covers politics for Politico in the state of California. She's also the co-author of Politico's California Playbook, something I know in D.C. we read all the time, the Politico Playbook, and folks everywhere. So it's great to have you with us. Rick Caruso outspent Karen Bass 11-1.
11-1.
Just to repeat that to folks, that's absolutely huge, and he still lost. He had millions from his own personal funds pumped into this campaign. So in your view, how did the Congresswoman emerge victorious?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, Rick Caruso just far outspent Karen Bass. He was actually the highest spender in any LA municipal race. But I think at the end of the day, when people look at Karen Bass's victory, they're going to look at her decades of service. I mean, she has truly cut her teeth and built her reputation in the public sphere. She was an organizer in South LA in the 90s. She went on to become Assembly Speaker, where she worked with Republican Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger during the 2008 financial crisis. And of course, as you mentioned, she